With all due respect to President Trump, the general euphoria among mindless advocates of peace and their clueless leaders in the West is short-sighted and misplaced. In the unseemly hurry to claim glory and celebrate victory, the 20 points seem to have become blurred and distant. The terrorist organization whose prescription was central in the 20 points is very visibly reasserting its dominance in Gaza. The manifest coercion of Israel to submit to equating tortured innocent civilian hostages to hardened terrorist criminals in a preposterous proportion of 20 to 1,000 is not a deal. It's an act of abject submission to terrorism. It is akin to a Central American drug cartel having captured and tortured innocent U.S. civilians and forcing the U.S. government to release hardened drug criminals in a purported deal. Despite the fanciful utterances of hope and joy from world leaders and the upcoming celebrations, the message is clear. A heinous terrorist act can attain final victory, especially if the terror group sacrifices some of its own population as an acceptable cost for effective propaganda. Nobody likes to spoil the party of peace and goodwill, where world leaders and one of Israel's most insistent detractors, the head of the so-called United Nations, are scheduled to gather. But just as other great moments, for instance, the great Yitzhak Rabin shaking hands with Yasser Arafat on the White House lawn, this too will be a fleeting passage, soon forgotten in this conflict. That's because the malignancy of terrorist culture remains in one of these societies, and most importantly, the overwhelming obstruction to the much-cited but illusory two-state solution. The fanatical conviction among all the Arab groups, and many in the civilian population, that Israel should cease to exist and the Jewish people dispossessed of this land. Even in the most recent 20 years, Gaza did have the opportunity to develop and flourish. But what was accomplished? How did the leadership employ its considerable resources? They built an enormous terrorist infrastructure designed to destroy Israel. Many scholars indulging in mindless debate, and their dutiful followers utter the phrase, Gaza was an open-air prison. If indeed it had been so, would Israel not have acted for its own protection when miles of tunnels, a mass of weapons, and other implements for its own destruction were being constructed and accumulated? Had it been a prison under its control, how could it have had such a dramatic intelligence failure as to have not known of the impending attack on October 7th? The vast proportion of those deceived by a media with the unrelenting aim of discrediting and isolating Israel as a nation don't know and don't wish to know the truth.